Hi everyone and welcome to the interview segment at Connect Spring 2024. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by James Bennett, the Director of Creative Technologies at Project Worldwide, who not only possesses a deep understanding and passion for AI technologies, but also is actively integrating these in their clients' experiences. In this compelling session, we look forward to uncovering the insights and strategies behind leveraging AI to build better and craft more meaningful event experiences. So let's dive right into the conversation. Hi James, welcome to Give Me Connect.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Let's start with a little bit of a background and try to understand an overview of what you're excited about in the AI world. So we'll start with the first question. As a leader in creative technologies, how do you see AI reshaping the landscape of event business models?
So that's a really good question, and one that we've spent a lot of time in the last 18 months or so throwing back and forth between us. Um, how do I see it reshaping the landscape? There's lots of things that are coming our way that are still to be predetermined on how much of the landscape will change. But it could be, is such an in between answer. It could be anything from a little bit to absolutely everything. And my personal opinion is that it's somewhere midway between the two. Um, I think, I mean, you'll see it across everything. In at least from my side, on agency side, of in the last 18 months, the ascendancy of generative AI, specifically within the AI area, um, in my personal opinion, wasn't supposed to happen. Like we're supposed to get flying cars, etc., in the future before they come for creating video and images and being able to write text and understand everything. So I think it was incredible the breakthroughs that have happened within large language models and transform models in the last 18 months. And annoyingly and excitingly, each of those technologies have a massive effect on the way that you create events. So, to your question about reshaping the landscape, I think it's going to change a lot. Whether or not or how those changes manifest is still a little bit open. Like we're starting to see some of the areas that are changing, but I think a lot more is still to be defined.
Wonderful. Could you provide us some examples of event experiences that you're creating for your clients that are currently incorporating generative AI?
Yeah, of course. So I've got to be relatively careful because I don't want this to sound like an advert specifically for project, and also I'm under a couple of NDAs. But a large amount of our clients are in and around the technology space, and as a consequence, some of those are the very people, the very companies that are creating some of these technologies, and then others, it makes a lot of sense for them to bring them into their workflows. And then that is a difficult thing to try and explain to their customers, what these technologies do and how they might be able to use them within their workflows and understand them, especially with the backdrop of some of these technologies, which is around fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like no one really knows. There's a lot of talk around what does this mean for jobs going in the future? What does this mean for education? So I think that all of those elements come into play when we're working with the clients that we have at the moment. So just as some examples to give you off the top of my head, um, I'm fortunate enough to work with a great team that have done a huge amount of work in and around open source AI models, and we've just spent a little bit of time taking, as I said, the scary technology and trying to humanize it as much as possible. So I'll give you two examples. One of which is this one, which is that we used some really impressive modeling behind the scenes to recognize images that were drawn by guests at the event or children's images, so very rough setups, and bring them into a model that was able to recognize, animate, and export an animated graphic of that drawing coming to life. So it became quite a fun thing for people to do at the event, where you could come in, you draw an image of your own choice of yourself, you scan it with the phone through a web app, and we animate that and put that up onto the screen so everybody could see it. And we take you through the technology process of what it's doing behind the scenes of object recognition, of recognizing where the joints are in a made up image, which is quite difficult to model, and then putting that out as well. So that's one example of using AI technologies in an interesting way within an event experience. The second area I think that's quite interesting, or at least it is for us behind the scenes, is working with clients to rapidly iterate on what experiences might be or what physical experiences might be created. And normally or historically, that would be a load of ideation and illustration, and then eventually 3D models. We've been able to use within our design flow for our clients to be able to use some of these technologies, generative AI technologies, to be able to prompt in a really precise manner, to be able to create visuals of what some of these experiences might look like, so the physical builds, etc. And we found that that has saved us a huge amount of time, or has opened up all sorts of other weird areas that perhaps we weren't thinking of, but that have come out of the graphics that have been created. And then that's been an area that we've then lent into or looked into.
That sounds really interesting, and it's amazing to see, like how a lot of the agency world is starting to adopt these into the event experiences. And you did mention a little bit about the uncertainty and the challenges or the risks, right? So that's a perfect segue into the next question that I wanted to ask you, which is more around the risks. So what are some of the potential risks or challenges in incorporating generative AI into event management, and how can we mitigate these?
Yeah, so with any sort of step change or sea change of technology, like comes a load of other things that we need to figure out, and this is certainly no different, especially from generative AI. So the biggest risk that we see at the moment is upskilling staff of the people that are actually using these platforms. So having a semblance of understanding of whether that's prompting or being more street smart about some of the limitations that come with these platforms. Um, Off the top of my head, I mean, there's many that we have to be aware of. Like copyright is obviously one of the biggest things around generative AI that is still to be defined in courts around the world. Hopefully, that will become a little bit clearer this year as some of the major hitters get seen within the courts. As I said, I think there was a lot of excitement. Personal opinion here. There was a lot of excitement around teaching people to prompt and how to be better at the things that they get out of the models. I'm not a massive advocate for that. I think that prompting will go the way of Boolean search, if anyone's familiar with that, which was the way that you used to use search engines. You have to type in very specific terminology to be able to get the response back out that you wanted. Whereas now you can go straight to Baidu or Google and type in exactly what you want, and it's pretty goddamn great at being able to find what it is that you're after. And I think that that will be very much the case with these platforms and services when we're creating. But there is a risk that we spend a lot of time training for the current, and then that training or that knowledge is no longer that useful. And that obviously comes with a time investment, a financial investment, and the rub of using different platforms. I think the other major risk that we see at the moment is that there is, in the last 18 months or so, there has been an explosion in all sorts of different platforms that are vying for attention and low subscription cost per month to be able to use their platform. And that in itself, we see as a bit of a risk in that they all operate in slightly different ways. They all do slightly different things. They all have their own pros and cons. And there is a genuine concern, at least on our side or my personal side, that we don't spend a huge amount of time on a platform that perhaps doesn't look like it has the longevity. And right now, it's a really interesting state of affairs where even within the big tech companies, it's not apparent exactly who is leading, and there's a lot of individual exciting startups doing really cool stuff. We haven't seen the huge purchasing moment that will go on where everyone gets hoovered back up into whatever the main players are once this technology has come through. And I think that that's a major risk as well, of making sure that we don't spend a huge amount of time investing or training our staff in a platform that may or may not exist or may not be the same platform in a year's time.
Yeah, and I think that's very valid to your earlier point about in terms of how we are able to kind of train different kinds of data. So a lot of these different tools are working in different ways. So how does that fit into everyone's organizational business workflows is very different. And there is kind of that gray area that everyone's trying to work around as well. We'll bring that conversation.
I've got
Yeah.
two quick things that I must add there. Like I will kick myself otherwise. To be mindful of that are also major risks. Is one, the inherent trust that people put in these platforms, or these technologies, I should say, to be more specific. So very rarely does something go live where people are going to use it in the workforce that has a hit and miss, like it's not always correct. And that is what we're seeing, especially within some of the large language models like LLMs that we see. They're getting better, and they will get better in the same way that we probably won't need to prompt them, that we probably won't have the term for those that aren't familiar is hallucinations, which is where the model is so desperate to give you the right information that it thinks it can almost over exaggerate its knowledge base. So it will create things that are not true, to be able to answer what the question is that you're asking it. And that fundamentally is a major risk in that if you're going to give tools to staff or anyone within the industry, you expect them to be correct and work well. And at the moment, in this early stage of this technology maturing, that isn't the case right now. So in extension to all the major concerns that a lot of lawyers will have in and around copyright, like there's also how specific and correct the answers are as well, is a massive one.
Absolutely. That's very valid for us to kind of keep in mind when we're utilizing any platforms, as to what exactly we're getting. We should always fact check. I know OpenAI is also doing a lot of enhancements to their models specifically, where hallucinations are sort of getting controlled to some extent, but at the same time we always the way that we talk about it is that this is your first version of things. This is that you're a helper tool that will help you come up with kind of a first draft, or so to say, that will allow you to be more productive, be more efficient at your current roles. But I wanted
we have.
yeah.
Sorry, if I may, we have a very specific look at it at the moment, and it's probably overused in the analogy of the AI platforms at the moment being interns. For our staff to use. Like I know that we're not alone in having that mentality, but I guess maybe a slight difference is that for now, any products and services that we're using are almost exclusively being used by senior staff members, purely because they're able to discern between the knowledge to know whether or not something is correct or not, but also discern between the good and the bad to be able to sift through. So if you're using, I don't know, a product or service to be able to get a load of different images or a load of different ideas very quickly, we still heavily relying on that human element of quality control that is within our business at the moment. and then using the tools that are available to us at the moment to be able to rapidly iterate on that. But we still have like that very strong layer of human oversight, the trust that our clients expect from us
Yeah.
when using new technologies like this.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to bring this conversation a little bit focused to the APAC region.
Mm.
And how can AI contribute to creating culturally relevant and engaging event experiences in the region itself? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the immediate two things that spring to mind are being able to do the research like at near light speed. So if you want something that's relevant to the region and culturally on the nose, um, there is no better way right now than being able to search the petabytes of information that's on the internet and be able to distill signal from all the noise that's out there. Um, and you're already seeing a couple of platforms do that really, really well in above what we had before around social listening, etc., or just being really savvy with search engines. The other area that I think would be really interesting for honing down experiences, not necessarily for APAC, but if you call it the APAC region, is personalization, like the ability to personalize content, um, is far easier with the task force of generative AI behind a smaller team, and I don't think it's kind of been done already, but it's only going to become easier, simpler, and faster to be able to use. So, for instance, from event content creation, we always talk about the holy grail of someone having their own exclusive experience from the very beginning all the way through to the end that is tailored to what we know about them from a data point of view. So it's super useful for them and super useful for the business. Like that historically has always been quite expensive to be able to do. And what you're seeing is some of these technologies, especially around generative AI and especially around large language models, is that you could almost pre-create a specific imagery based off limitations for whatever the brand is and what they want, that is then also married with very specific communications that are being created that's targeted specifically for you. So whether we're talking like a level of knowledge that the audience member might have that's coming through this experience, like whether they're like we talk skimmer dipper divers, being able to really quickly give the right people deep information about something or the right people very superfluous information that they need to know, and folding that over. That's something that we're now seeing within workflows that's becoming far more feasible from a cost and time perspective. Because before, if you invite, I don't know, for something large like Dreamforce, Salesforce, you're inviting thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And the process to be able to go through personalizing that for everyone is really, really difficult. But it's becoming far, far more feasible now to be able to do that all the way through. So everyone has their own experience to the exact moment,
Yeah.
which is amazing and crazy that it's happening right now in our careers.
Yeah, it's very exciting to be like kind of going through that whole evolution as we are seeing it happen, and for it to be implemented into the events world, it's just very exciting. As a last question, what I wanted to ask you was advice for our event planners. So, what advice would you do you have for our event planners who are looking to integrate AI into their event experiences?
Yeah, I don't. There's one side where I can get very excited about the opportunity, but then uh, I would feel very guilty if I don't open with just being really mindful about the risks that come with these technologies of integrating this into workflows or business models that you have on the way through, is understanding the pros, the many pros that come with it, but also the cons, the issues that you need to be aware of and how you might mitigate them. So if we put that aside, like as long as that is 100% done, then I think it's this is the very very first time we'll think everything that we've. It sounds very lofty, but it's the very first time that I think that we could generally rethink a lot of things that we take as standard that no one has really reconsidered. And that's very exciting, at least for me. And hopefully they will feel that that's exciting as well, because there's a lot of things that these technologies are going to allow us to do that we weren't able to do, or smaller teams will be able to do things that only larger teams could do. And the larger teams are now going to be able to do far more wider things on the way through. So I think when it comes down to integrating AI, is just don't lose track of exactly what it is that you're trying to do from the outset, right? Because it's very easy. Like I see this a lot in day to day. Is it's very easy to feel that progress is just by automating more things or adding more technology to something, and that it may be slightly ironic for me to be saying this, but that isn't always the right answer for the end result, for the experience design of what you're trying to create. So I think it's really important to be very mindful about what the end goal is, and then look at what will be, no doubt, if they're rethinking some of this stuff, like the plethora of all sorts of different products and services, or just fundamental technologies that you might be able to use in creating new business models, new experiences, etc.
Yeah.
The difficulty will be sifting through them because there are so many, and that my only advice for that one is stay very aware. I mean, try and attend as many as you can, and stay really aware of what's going on in the industry, because you're going to see people, especially at the end of this year into next year, you're going to see a lot more of these technologies within the experience flow. And some will work and be really special and magic, and others won't. And that's okay, because we need to go through that whole experience of learning, of getting the feedback and tweaking. So I think it's just keeping abreast of what everyone else is doing within the industry, within that same sort of area, and keeping an eye on the things that you love, like on the way through in the experience flow, or the things that have been effective that people talk about, that you see businesses or brands bring back for the next year, etc., because clearly they must be working. So yeah, we're in a really crazy learning time where no one has the exact true answer right now, which is really, really, really fun. So good luck to everyone. And I'm really excited to see what things they come up with as well that perhaps we haven't even considered.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those nuggets there, James. It's been wonderful chatting with you and really understanding your purview or your insights into, leveraging AI into the event experiences and crafting better experiences, more engaging stuff for your clients as well as the attendees in general. It's been lovely having you at Connect. We look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks, James.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. See you all soon.